big 5 slasher franchises. Which one's your favourite? Hey there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we are continuing on with our 31 days of Halloween, and I wanted to look at some of the bigger slasher movies that are out there. Now we do generally have the big 3, but overall guys, I've always looked at these ones as the big 5. Now guys, I am going to be doing my own personal ranking of each series, but what I will say guys is if you have a completely different ranking, if you have a different opinion than mine, leave it in the comments down below. This is just my own personal opinion of where I kind of rank each of the movies. So we're going to get it going guys. Coming in at 5th place is Friday the 13th. Now guys, this one might be a controversial one for some. I know a lot of people absolutely love Jason Voorhees and the Friday the 13th movies, and I also love him too, but he's always been one of the lower ones down in my ranking. For me guys, the reasons he comes down at number 5 is generally just because a lot of the movies tend to be the same, and as well as that, this series itself is almost a copycat of other slashers. We do have a lot of slashers from the 80s. Jason Voorhees is by far one of the best. I absolutely love watching the movies, but I do think compared to the other ones on this list, there's just something about it that doesn't live up to the others. Now it does have positives. I absolutely love Jason Voorhees. Out of everything on this list as well, Friday the 13th probably has the best kills overall. But what kind of annoys me sometimes about Friday the 13th movies is they are all the same. So a lot of Friday the 13th, they do kind of follow the same storyline. It is a bunch of camp counselors going off to Camp Crystal Lake and getting killed off one by one. Now at the same time guys, as I said, it has some great entries. The original with Pamela Voorhees is one of my favourite slashers of all time. It also has part 4, part 6, so there's some great entries in here. Just compared to the other movies on this list, it's not as original. Coming in 4th place is a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now guys, as I said with Friday the 13th, it is kind of following the same beats, whereas Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a completely different story. As well as that, it actually came out before any of the other movies on this list. I absolutely love the Sawyer family. I love the whole story we get with the original movie in particular, but also the remake. I think the remake is one of the best remakes we've ever had, and that goes for the beginning as well, so the prequel to the remake. For the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, although again, yes, they kind of follow the same beat, each movie is different in its own unique way. The original is a very scary movie. It's a horrifying, disturbing movie, whereas the second one is more of a parody and it's just making fun of that first movie. You get that as well up to the 4th one. The 3rd one is its own thing completely. But guys, as I said, the remake and the prequel for me are absolutely brilliant. Overall guys, there's a lot of entries in this one I'll actually throw on and watch. I probably won't go to it as much as I go to Friday the 13th, but I just appreciate how different it is compared to all the other slashers that were coming out. You know, it is its own thing. It has cannibals in there. It has this kind of brutal kind of torture throughout the entire movie. So it is its own thing and it can stand on its own 2 feet. As for Leatherface, he is absolutely terrifying. And as I said about originality, you know, he wears people's faces on his face. He uses a chainsaw compared to the typical slasher you would get in the 80s, and we get the Sawyer family. Each of them are interesting in their own ways. I love the Sawyer family in the original 2 movies, but I also loved the family, the Hewitt family in the remakes. So there's a lot guys to unpack with this one. We also have a new Texas Chainsaw Massacre coming out next year, so that should be quite interesting. There's even a movie that we go back to Leatherface and the beginnings of him. So there is quite a few different stories in here compared to the same thing over and over again. Coming in 3rd place is the Scream series. So there's many different things I actually love about these movies. I pretty much grew up when the movies were being released, and there was a time where I knew every word in the movie off by heart. But mainly guys, what I love about the film is it's clearly made for horror fans. It takes the genre of slasher movies, it dissects it and just picks it apart. It of course makes fun of it, but at the same time it is a very scary series. There's quite a few great kills as well throughout the entire series, particularly in the first 2 movies. I know a lot of people aren't fans of the 3rd one, but honestly guys, when I look at the Scream series, it's a series that for me doesn't have a bad entry. The 3rd might be maybe the weakest out of the bunch, but it's still a fun movie. You look at all of the other series on the list here and they all have awful entries overall in their franchises. Scream actually never has that. As well as that, the killer is quite unique. That generally in the Scream series we get two killers. You know, they are also human. They're not these kind of supernatural beings that constantly get up and keep coming at you. They are real people that you can take on. But what comes with that as well, what's brilliant about the Scream series is the dialogue, the back and forth between the killer and the victim. Again guys, looking, you know, at slasher movies in particular, we didn't get too much of that. Most of the killers in slasher movies were these kind of silent killers with a mask on, so it is refreshing to see that with Scream. Now this of course is done by Wes Craven, and it's regarded as one of the best horror movies of all time. As well as that guys, you have the characters. So the characters in this pretty much appear in every single movie. That's a rarity to see in a horror film, especially in slasher movies. We don't see it too much. Pretty much every other movie on this list does not have a returning character in every single movie. Scream does. We have Scream 5 coming out soon, and the original cast are still coming back. Down to our final two, and coming in second place is A Nightmare on Elm Street. Now guys, I went back and forth between what we get first place and second place, and Nightmare on Elm Street actually gets it just because of the comedy we get in the later sequels. But what I love about A Nightmare on Elm Street, especially in those earlier films, is how dark and creepy Freddy is, while also having a little bit of comedy in there. What's great about the character is he can actually talk to the victim, so there's a back and forth again, just like Scream, but with Freddy he is a supernatural being. What's great about the movie series in general is that he can kill you in your dreams. It's a terrifying concept, and it is so original. It also opens up the doors for really interesting creative kills. So Freddy, because he can control the dream world, can pretty much kill you in any way he wants. We also of course get Nancy Thompson, who's one of the best final girls of all time, and as I said guys in my Nightmare on Elm Street review, she really changed the tide for a tiny girl. She was kick-ass, she fought back, and she was the one who went out there and actually dragged Freddy out of the dream world. Now I will say guys, some of the sequels aren't as good, especially when it goes into the comedicness of the movies, especially in Freddy's Dead, but you have movies like New Nightmare where again it's so original. It's the cast of the original Nightmare on Elm Street being stalked by an entity that's kind of claiming itself to be Freddy Krueger. So for me guys, I absolutely love this series. It is original, it's creative, and it's still also very scary. Now coming in first place, and this one may be a little bit biased, is Halloween. This is of course the movie that also started the slasher craze of the 80s. A lot of the movies on this list are on the list because of Halloween. Now guys, as well as that, just the character of Michael Myers is a very interesting character. You know, again, it's a very simple story with him being the boogeyman or the shape, but compared to somebody like Jason Voorhees, Michael tends to take his time. There is something quite terrifying and creepy about him compared to kind of this brute killer that just tears down walls and kills everyone left, right and center. As well as that guys, we got Jamie Lee Curtis, who is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest final girl of all time, coming back countless times to take on Michael Myers. Now the movie guys, the series itself definitely has its faults. We have the torn storyline where although it has a lot of fans, it is quite messy. But guys, with the entries of these, especially part 1, part 2, H2O and 2018, the writing, the directing, the character development that goes into these movies are a lot more interesting. They are not just there for a body count. It's the one thing I enjoy about Halloween. It's not just all about the kills. It's really about figuring out who Michael is, who the boogeyman is, who the shape is itself. We also have Donald Pleasence, who repeatedly came back for quite a few entries, even during the darker days of the Halloween movies, the torn storyline, where things were getting a little bit silly. He always brought something more to the movies. He kind of gave a little bit more respect to the movies compared to what you get with other slashers. You know, he had something about him that gave kind of grandeur and an epicness to the movies themselves. But guys, that's just my ranking of the top movies in the series. If yours are different guys, as I said, that's totally fine. Leave your comments down below and let me know what your own personal ranking is. Remember guys, we are going to be doing 31 reviews for the month of October. That's a video every single day. If you haven't already guys, make sure you pop on the notification bell, subscribe to the channel just so you don't miss any more content, and I will see you in the next one.